I had no idea what to expect by doing this. Like,
I know.
when they were like,
we should do this again.
We should interview someone. I was like, I don't have any idea how to. This is not my forte.
I know. Me too.
I feel like I'm not even good at doing interviews. Like even
but then they were like, "But do you get to hear the new album?" And I was like, "Okay."
I know that was the selling point to me too. Like she's like, "Well,
bribery."
Like, well, Amy's going to send you the record," and I was like, "Well, okay. Well, in that case." I was going to ask, so it's been a minute, like obviously since you guys have put out an album. So like that's, I mean, it has been for us, but I feel like it's been, am I correct? I mean, don't crucify me here, but am I correct that the last record that you put out was when we were on tour together? That was almost
Yes. We've done other things that had some, new music, but nothing has been like, here's the new, like totally new stuff album since then.
So what made you want to like, finish an album? Like, where did it start? Like, I'm sure you've been asked these questions a billion times, but like,
no, it's cool. It'd been building for a while. It's just, I don't know about you, but for me, every time it's like, okay, let's do this. Let's make an album. It's this all consuming project for me. Like I can't let it just be okay. And every detail and the inspiration for the whole thing, it's just something that I need to like make my life for a while. And that's awesome, but you got to want it really bad. And there were other things that I wanted after doing that for so long. So I don't know, becoming a mom too, definitely
I didn't know if you wanted me to bring that up, but you got married, you have a baby, moved, like
it's the greatest thing ever. And it's the greatest thing I've ever done.
He's so cute. Like all the videos and me and stuff. Oh my God. He just like puts the biggest smile on my face. So like I
thank you for the pizza. Listen, I can't tell you. Okay. For the people watching, Taylor sent us pizza from New York, and we are both New York girls, who are now not there. Are you in Maine now?
I'm in Maine, and man, I miss New York. And so when I figured out, I was really excited when I figured out this, you moved from Brooklyn, obviously, to Nashville. And I was like, the thing that I've been dying for, aside from all the other normalcies of, life, was New York pizza. Like I was like, I'm dying for New York pizza. And I finally, I don't know what came over me. It was like, I bet I could get New York pizza shipped. Is that a thing?
It was great.
And it is. And like, shout out to like, it was Gold Belly delivery. So, hey, there's your plug if you want to.
Thank you. We wrote that down
for pizza, but it was surprisingly good and pretty close to the real thing. Like,
I have to say, you sent Manhattan and Brooklyn and Manhattan won, and I'm the Brooklyn girl and you're the Manhattan girl. Yeah. And
well, I kind of knew that. I kind of knew that was going to be the case, but I had to let you
can't say that.
I did.
There's so many different places.
Figure it out for yourself.
Well, I was saying thank you because we've lived here for not quite 2 years now, and Jack misses Brooklyn a lot. And we talk about it. He loves it here. It's nice because we have a big space. So being locked down and having a backyard is a big deal. I don't know how we would have done it in the old place. So it's been a blessing. But every time we talk about it, he just gets kind of like, he's like, when do we get to go back to our old house? I'm like, other people live there now.
Not our house anymore.
Breaks his heart. It's like, what do you mean? How could you let this happen to me? But I was just telling him the other night, we were laying in bed and I just started to feel this like pang of like, don't forget, he's only 6 years old. So I asked if he remembered something and he didn't act like he did. And I just started talking through it. I was like, do you remember the park? Do you remember we used to go to the park with those like stone chickens and you sit them and there was that bear statue? And I just started like going through the stuff and he just kind of zoned out. And I go, do you remember? And he goes, you're making me remember. And I was like, that's okay. I promise. And I told him, I was like, I swear, as soon as we can fly again, we're going to go take a really long trip to New York and see our friends and go to the old little neighborhood parks that we used to go to and get sushi. Damn it. I miss food from New York so bad.
New York, it's the coast, New York, LA, they got the best food.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been kind of doing the same thing. I mean, I still have my place in New York, but just because I actually got stuck in Maine, because we were starting rehearsal and we all rehearsed up in New England, and which is why I got a house up here finally, because after spending years in hotel rooms, it just it made sense. I was like, this is
Totally
stupid. Like, get a place.
Yeah, that's great.
And I love it. And so I was actually back in March, we were rehearsing to go on tour, and we had some really amazing touring lined up. The record was supposed to come out in 2020, like, all the plans that have since, escaped us. But so I got stuck up here when lockdown started, and I was like, well, it just kind of makes more sense to stay here and not be
absolutely
in the city right now. And like, at least I can get outside. Like, I live on the water. So especially during,
nice.
It was really nice to be able to like go swimming. And of course, I mean, it was kind of amazing in the summer to see how, due to COVID, like the animal, like everyone talks about it, but how the animal life like started to really thrive. And I really, especially in Maine, starting with like, squirrels and chipmunks and, cute little things, and seals and dolphins and all the birds.
Oh, wow.
But then when the great white shark came into play, then then I was a little, I was like, well, there goes my swimming for the summer.
Wow.
But if you've seen Jaws and there's a shark like in your harbor, maybe you're
never going in there again.
Out of the water for the summer. So it kind of,
God,
swimming, but I still got to go out in the boat and stuff, and that was really nice. And now
that's so good. That has been the thing for me. That two things that kept me sane during COVID. Yeah. One is the album. Like for us, like we had done some of it right before lockdown.
That's what I was going to ask. Did you finish this before COVID or
no? We, I'm so glad we did this, and it had nothing to do with what happened, but it's been just a saving grace. We went in for just 4 songs, just because like we had time, and time's hard to come by these days, especially with kids and stuff. So, it was like, you know what, we know we have this many and that we really love and want to do, like, let's go in, work with Nick, just get the vibe going. Last January, a year ago. And it just went so well with Nick, and we knew that we wanted to do the whole record with him. But we had a tour booked too, and we were about to go on tour and then come back and write some more and then record some more and just sort of play it by ear time wise. So we had the 4 songs that we were able to release like singles over the course of last year, which was great because it was just like, okay, we'll just start releasing our album in real time while we're still working on it, and have something to share with the fans.
That's such a cool mentality. I don't think I could do that. Like, I think I'm too like maniacal and meticulous. And like, I see a record, at least the way I conceive of it, I see it as this like full piece of time that like encapsulates a time period in my life. And so like to set up in songs like that, I would love to, like, I think that would be really fun.
I'm totally with you.
I'm so like, because I listened to the full album, like I listened to it all the way through, and it sounds completely cohesive and like it was done as one grand body of work. So I'm like, how did you make that work? Like, how did you, write a song, put it out, and then go back and write some more and play again?
I'm like you, and I've always thought about it in terms of like a full album and the journey of the album, and the order really matters. And I like intros and segues and outros, and we're the same on that. That's rock and roll. Like, to do a real album, I want it to be a whole book.
Yeah. Well, I always hate, like, I even think like picking singles is hard. Like, I hate having to cherry pick a song out of a record that, like, by itself, even if it's, entertaining and, something I'm super proud of, like taking it out and just putting it out in the world by itself without everything surrounding it. It's like, well, you're only getting a little piece of the story. And so it's like, so I feel like that's always a strange thing for me. So like, but you were doing that and still continuing to write the album. So it
was a leap of faith. It really was something where it's like, okay, I'm not comfortable with this. But we don't know how long this is going to take, and we don't want to wait. And we do love and believe in these songs. And it's interesting because we have some songs on this album, including one of the 4 that was the first ones, that have been kind of in the scrap pile unfinished for up to 10 years. Like, right before the last album came out, we had a big writing session, and there was a bunch of pieces and unfinished songs that are just, we call it the pile. We just keep a pile of ideas. So when it's time to like go write a new album, it's like, okay, let's look through the pile just for a place for inspiration to see if there's something, that we have a new idea about now. That's pretty typical. Do you do that?
I do. I mean, I try not to, but I think anytime I start a record, I inevitably go back to things that I never finished.
Totally. Like that you believed in.
Gets you in the mindset. I mean, Death by Rock and Roll, the song, it was actually that song in particular was one that kind of spearheaded the record. Not to get heavy, but we lost our producer Cato, and that was a phrase that he used to say all the time when we formed the Pretty Reckless was Death by Rock and Roll, which might sound really morbid to a lot of people, but like to us and to me, it was this kind of like code and this ethic that we lived our life by, which is, live life to the fullest and rock and roll till I die. Don't let anyone tell you differently. So it was a very much like this battle cry that we lived battle cry for life that we lived our life by. And so when he passed, that kept kind of ringing in my head. And that was a song that we had started almost 10 years ago and just never finished. And
that's awesome.
When he passed, it just became very relevant again. And so to speak of your pile, that was one that like immediately rose to the top and was kind of.
That's really cool. I'm sorry to hear that. That's terrible. We've had a lot of loss. Well, that's the thing. That's part of, you asked a while ago, I didn't really answer it. Like why now after all this time? And over the past 10 years, and especially over the last few, we have gone through a lot of stuff. We've had a lot of losses in our collective band family, and new birth as well. There's just a lot to say and a new perspective. And I think that something cool for me in this time is there have been times in my past, in my career, where I kind of wanted to really just chart new territory and break away from maybe some of the old ideas of what you thought I was is maybe the opposite. And let me just go explore. Yeah. I think that's really important. But I'm feeling a real full circle moment this time.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, I listened to the album in full, and not to fangirl on you or anything, but I've been a lifelong fan of yours, and so hearing the progression of this record, which has it's kind of rooted. Interrupt me if you think I'm saying something incorrect here, but I think that it's kind of rooted in that that classic Evanescence sound that everyone loved and fell in love with, but it also is taking on new territory, and it's kind of transcending what you did before, and it's almost grander. It seems like it's musically more experimental, which I thought was really interesting. The music and the sounds and the melody, and from you were talking about interludes, just the way it all everything transitions into from one song to the next. It's almost dare I say it, it's very almost Pink Floyd-esque, and I thought that was a really kind of neat departure.
Thank you. I hear hints of Pink Floyd in your new album too, by the way.
Well, I mean, if you're not inspired by Pink Floyd, are you what are you doing?
Are you a rock artist at all?
Yeah, exactly. It's what Beatles, Pink Floyd. There's the couple standards that if they have to. If they don't strike a chord in you, then I don't know what you're listening to.
Right.
But I mean that in the highest, compliment of.
Thank you.
I really loved the overall dynamic where I felt like I was listening to, something that I fell in love with when I was, when I first heard the band, but in this new transformative way that was just really exciting and modern. And
thank you.
Congratulations. It's really fantastic.
Thank you. Well, and time is part of that. I feel like when you go through these big moments in your life, devastating ones and life-changing ones, it makes, for me, sometimes it's you just zoom way out on your life and the big picture of life in general, and have to kind of look at it as a whole in this kind of who am I place, which is honestly where I was in a smaller, younger, different way when I was first wanting to make music, that kind of existential searching and okay. And this whole 2020 when we needed to keep writing and it was just weirder and weirder. It kind of just, it's like living in a weird post-apocalyptic time a little bit in a way that makes you step away from kind of the everyday mundane distractions and have to face some of these bigger, harder internal questions. And that is part of my root. So the songs that are from the past that work now, that we couldn't get there all the way, part of that is me loving myself and giving myself a hug from the past instead of rejecting her. And I don't feel like I always have, but it's this full circle and being but this is me now.
Fully under, fully understand what you're saying. I feel like we went through, obviously not the same situation, but a similar kind of thing with, with loss and grief. And, when you go through, traumatic experiences like that, it's how you come back from them, I think, that defines you. And like, what we went through, it really took me down. If I mean, like I was not in a good place there for a long time. Like it was very dark. But you mentioned that, this record, I don't want to speak for you and I don't want to misquote you, but I've been saying that our album, our new record, Death by Rock and Roll, is I keep calling it a rebirth. Like it feels like the first album again, even though it's something that's so much, there's so much growth and stuff since the first record, but because we lost pretty much everything, we had to start from scratch again. And we had to learn to rebuild from the beginning. And like, I had gotten to a place of such a, low point of depression and all the shit that comes with, loss and grief and trauma and all that I couldn't listen to music for a while. Like it just, everything I listened to brought up a memory.
I relate to that too.
It was too painful and it was too much to deal with. And, I finally got to a place where it started me joy again. And it took a lot of work to actually like have to get to that place. Like I finally had to kind of ask myself, like, why did I want to make music in the first place? Like what was it, 10 to 20, 15, however long ago it was, years ago, that made me fall in love with this. And I went, well, I got nothing. I'm like depleted as a human being. So I'm going to start at the beginning. I'm going to start with the first band I fell in love with, which was the Beatles. So I started by listening to the Beatles, and I listened to all the records and the demos and then the anthology. And from that, it kind of led into, Led Zeppelin and The Who and Pink Floyd, and eventually kind of getting able to listen to Soundgarden again, because losing Chris was a huge, devastation to the music world, and really had a big impact on my life. I mean, we were on that last tour. So I don't want to get into that, but it took a lot of like self-work to kind of get to the place where I could finally actually write this album and pick up a guitar and have it bring me joy again. And I feel like this record came from a place that was born so kind of organically, like I like in the sense that, when you try to sit down and write a record and you just go, I don't know, like, where's inspiration going to come from? You don't know when it's going to come, you don't know where it's going to come from. It's a very like torturous process. I mean, it's also very fun, but it can be this very kind of tumultuous, confusing thing. And this album, I feel like is very different from our previous records in the way that I didn't have to try to write it. It was kind of it was like this whole record was something that I'd been repressing for about a year of just, in my own hole of darkness. And when I finally like kind of let it out, it just happened, flew, like stream of consciousness. And it was like, inspiration had smacked me in the face, like with a brick, whether I wanted it to or not. And I was just kind of forced into that situation.
I felt like that too. I'm relating to so much of what you're saying. It's crazy.
Well, that's why I'm bringing it up, which I think was actually, the writing of this record for me was like that was really the first step of me starting to heal myself in a way that, like, again, I don't want to get super heavy, but I was not okay. And by creating something new out of all that darkness, I think that, that was, music's always been the thing that I can turn to. My stupid little cliche is that I always say music's my best friend. It's like, it's the one thing in the world that never lets me down. It's always there for me. It always supports me. And like, and to know that about yourself. And I think you know that about yourself. I think that's a really powerful gift that we've been blessed with in life.
Well, and when you can, feel at your worst and listen to something, just look at your finished work after you come up with something out of that pain, and hear that it is beautiful and good, and know that you couldn't have gotten to it without the pain and without facing it, then it makes it not a worthless, painful waste of time. It makes it something that you made mean something. And if we can take those terrible experiences and that all the enlightenment that can come with them, if we can take that and somehow share it and turn it into something good, that is incredibly healing. It gives me hope that even in the darkest moments, there's still some kind of good, positive forward movement. You know, when last year especially, you just feel
stuck. And I feel like that's that's the power of music. Like music, it has such a healing quality to it. I mean, even if you're not a musician yourself, and like, even if, you know, you don't, like, I always find my center by writing songs. Like, that's where I can find my balance again. But even if that's not something you do, even if you're just a fan of music, I feel like it's such a necessary part of society. Like, the same way we need food and we need water and oxygen, music is, you know, and art is soul food. It's the thing that, like, it actually, you know, can propel society into a better place and make you think in a way that maybe you wouldn't think on your own, you know, and make you question things and you know, and heal and help. And I think that, you know, even though I keep saying in interviews, I'm like, even because they're like, death by rock and roll, it's so, death. And it's like death. And it's like, well, yeah, it was born, you know, this record was born out of a place of, you know, a lot of loss and a lot of tragedy and stuff, and a lot of sadness. But at the end of the day, you know, because now I've had a year to sit with it, just because of 2020. And the more I listen to it, the more I'm realizing that it's actually an extraordinarily hopeful record. And I think it's in one way, even though we can't tour, which is devastating, I think that it's actually a really kind of fitting time for this album to come out. And I hope that it can shed some light and, not shed some light, but, you know, bring some light and bring some joy and some hopefulness to people who really need it right now. Cause it's like,
totally,
what the hell happened the past?
I know. Like, I mean, we've had to actually, I mean, I don't know about you, but like, sometimes just be real and cut the comedy and face the idea of maybe this is the end of the world.
I know.
Like, I mean, everybody's had to kind of maybe one time ask that question because it's been like that.
Oh yeah, I've certainly asked it. I don't know about cutting the comedy though, because I'm a firm believer that if you don't laugh through life, then you're gonna die. I love it. So I'm always making jokes, even at very inappropriate times when I shouldn't be. It's just it's the way my brain works, because it's how I move forward and, you know, step by step get to the next day. Have you, like, aside from making the album and stuff, like, what have you been doing? I mean, obviously you have a beautiful child and everything, so I'm sure you've been busy with that.
The album has been consuming all my time, and it's honestly, it's sort of a double-edged sword, because it has, just like you said, been this place of healing, and it's hard to go to that place as well. And so many of the topics they just mean so much to me that I have to get it right. And there has to be a better way to say it. And it's just constantly never good enough. So me being obsessed with it and just like living in this room that I'm in is just separate from the house. So I can come to this private little place in the backyard. It's awesome. Just like escape, you know, and pour into this thing. So it's good in that it has been this amazing, positive, forward movement thing to focus on, but especially towards the end of the writing process. And it's like, I'm almost there and I can't quite get it out. And it's like you're just trying to climb out of this place. I think there were times when it maybe was an unhealthy obsession too, of just like, but I just moved away from the question that you asked me. But I do know. I lose but no, everything you're saying, it's like a healing thing more than anything, and it being done finally after all that too feels really satisfying.
Does it feel freeing? I've been asked that a lot. Like, does it feel freeing to have let out, you know, everything that you went through and put it, and obviously put it into music, but like, knowing that you now have a release date and then it's coming out, like, how do you feel about that? Does it make you like anxious or nervous?
It pulled away the anxiety. I had anxiety before because we were talking about albums and the creation process and releasing while I was still writing. That was me doing something that I was uncomfortable with and felt a lot of anxiety about, of like, I would never do that. I would never start releasing singles when I hadn't even finished writing it. And I don't know when we can get back together again. That's terrifying. There's no sure thing, but I'm promising everybody that we can do it. We just had to have faith that we would find a way. And that, so by the end of last year, when it was just up to me, just finish those last lyrics, just come up with those lyrics and then you can go sing the songs and then you got it. And I couldn't just phone it in. It meant so much. And I actually ended up writing one more song from start to finish, like we didn't have a ballad until the very last second because there was that one thing that I just had to get off my chest and stare the darkness in the face. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Far From Heaven. Yeah.
That beautiful song. And like, I'm sure fans are going to die over that one. So it was well worth the wait.
Thank you.
No, really. Like I genuinely mean that. Like I don't listen to a lot of new music. It's just not my,
me too.
But getting to hear your album, it brought me back to such a place where, I don't know, it just brought me so much joy, but I also could see so much growth in what you'd done. And like, it's really, really great. And I'm
well,
really,
you too. Thank you. And I heard some of the things that you were just referencing in there. And I was going to ask you about the Beatles specifically, because I'm a big Beatles fan too. And I don't know if there's too many places in our music that you can hear them in me, but they are, from my deepest roots of growing up in a musical home, like Beatles, Neil Young, folk, rock. Absolutely. Like, so I was going to ask you about the song 25, because wait, that's what it's called, right?
Yeah.
I love that song. It might be my favorite song on the album. And I was, the first time I heard it, completely surprised at the 3/4 of the way through it moment when it switches in this very beautiful Beatles-esque way. And I was going to ask you, like, is that a new thing for you to bring that into your music, or is it something that's kind of always been there and I just didn't notice it before?
I think that it's something that's, I think that it's something that's always been there. Okay. But maybe not, I don't know. I think that this record, I certainly feel as a person, I mean, just after everything we went through, like, I feel like I grew exponentially, as a human being, but also especially as a songwriter. And 25, it's interesting that you bring that song up in particular, is, that song I wrote when I was 24, turning 25. I was in a very dark place in my life, but also in a very reflective period. Like, I think a lot of people are when they have a birthday coming up, you tend to kind of look back on your life. And so the song itself is actually quite autobiographical, but when I finished writing it, it was a moment, and it was just a split second of a moment, but there was a moment where I like stepped back from it and looked at it from like an outside perspective, just for a second. And I went, I think this might be really good. Like, I think I might have just gotten way better. And that was really that was kind of the jumping off point for the album. Like that was the first song we recorded. I recorded it right after my birthday when I was 25. And now, like, the album's coming out. I'm 27 now. And I'm like, and we kept like pushing the date and pushing the release date. And I finally got to the place where I was like, can we just pick a date? Because if this album comes out when I'm like 30,
it's not going to be cool anymore.
It's not going to work. Like, I got, like,
that's funny.
You've already been pushing it. Like, I've got more things to say. I've got more songs to write. And it's, and I'm so proud of this. Like, it's time to share it. And like, even though we don't know when touring's going to come back, like, I hope that this will bring some sort of like healing quality to the world, because I think that in times of great strife and stress and anxiety and like everything that's happening, music really does save. And like, if you can, like, it's, I'm assuming you kind of had the same thought process when you were starting to release singles, even though you didn't have the album done. It's, when you finish something, even if it's just one song that you're really proud of and you want to share, even if you don't have the full scope of everything worked out quite yet, you look at it and you go, well, this is really relevant right now. And I think not that it won't be relevant in the future, because music has staying power, but this is really relevant right now and people are going through a really hard time. And if I can make something in my bedroom and put it out into the world and it puts a smile on someone's face, then why would I deprive
absolutely
the world of that?
Absolutely. And life is too short. And especially when we can't like get together and commune in any sort of way as people, like that is actually the heart of like our job. Like the best part of it, the most meaningful way that you can look at it is human connection. So so to be able to do that, even if it's not in a way where we get all the applause and all the glory of a show, to have we know it's happening, we can feel it happening, and maybe it's doing something for somebody else like it's doing for you. You know it is.
I always hope that something that I've created, I don't think about it when I'm making it. I don't know.
Right.
I'm making something. I don't think of the outside world. I don't think about release. I don't think about critics. It doesn't even cross my mind that anyone's ever going to hear it. I'm simply making it for my own kind of sanity. And then so when it, the release date coming up next Friday, it's starting to kind of hit me that it's like, everything that I put into this album, which is so much of myself, it's my whole self. It certainly was at the time, is now going to be subject. I feel like it's like raising children. Granted, I don't have children, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it's, in one way, songs are a lot like kids, where it's like you spend so much time and, working on them and molding them and turning them into the best they can possibly be, and they're yours and they're precious, and then suddenly you put them out in the world and they don't belong to you anymore, and they take on their own identity, and it's this kind of weird, almost bittersweet thing when you put out at least for me, when I put out an album, where I'm so excited to share it because I'm so proud of it, but at the same time it's almost like
don't hurt my baby.
Well, it's like, don't hurt my baby, and I'm left with this kind of void of what I assume it feels like when you send your kid off to college or something, where suddenly, something that you poured everything you love and have into it is gone.
And now you're like, well, I'm empty now.
And you're like, I'm empty now. And now how do I fill that up again? And I feel like that's something that I kind of struggle with after a release of a record. And
tours got to help. I mean, that's something we're normally able to do at this time and be like, okay, let's go out there and love these things.
Well, because it extends it. It extends the life of the record. It completes the cycle. You're suddenly in a room with all the fans, and it becomes this very symbiotic, relationship that is unparalleled to anything else. And it's
hopefully sooner than later, we will be out there finally. People are going to be so dying to go to anything and to go see live music again. I feel like one thing from this time that has been good is just really appreciation for everything we were taking for granted before.
Absolutely.
Sitting in a restaurant with a friend, going to a concert, for us, getting to play a concert and what that really is and the magic of that. I'm hoping and I believe that when we do get to finally get back out there, it's just going to be like a flood of goodness and all of that energy finally coming out.
I know. Well, it's just, tell me if this is too offensive, but I keep making a joke. And my joke is that being deprived of live shows, it's like tantric sex.
Right.
We're
exactly.
All this payoff
all at once.
We just want it. And then when the shows finally come back, they're just going to be bigger and better than ever, because they're just going to explode. Everyone's going to appreciate them in such a, not even a better way, but just a new way that,
just a true appreciation, because we know that it could not always be there.
Yeah. And I think, obviously live music is so necessary. It's so important in the world. So I'm in the same boat as you. I mean, I'm
ready.
I'm so ready. I mean, we keep booking tours, and then they keep getting pushed, and then they keep.
I know. Do you have anything booked right now?
We had stuff. I mean, yes, technically there's some things in June, but I don't think that's going to happen. If I'm being realistic.
We're booked for fall, and
we have fall,
and we're looking at winter, and we're still, okay.
The fingers crossed.
But I'm not canceling. If anything, something gets moved back. All right. I don't want that, but I feel like we're almost through this. We just have to get through.
We're close. I just feel like if everyone continues to do their part, I think we're on the right path. We've at least kind of started to take that, that turn around the bend where I mean, I'm knock on wood as I say this, but it can't get worse, right? Not
I mean, we've got
to be heading in the right direction at this point. So no, I mean, I'm very hopeful. I keep saying, as much as I've enjoyed doing kind of acoustic, stripped back versions of our songs and covers of songs and getting to kind of collaborate with artists that I love, and including yourself, and and things like that. But in as much as I love acoustic guitar, that's where every song I write starts on an acoustic guitar. So I love the acoustic, but man, I miss electricity. Like
Totally.
the days
I'm
I
with
can
you.
play, I haven't seen the guys, like we haven't, you know, been able to play together. Like it's just, Zoom is not doing it for me anymore. Like,
So let me ask you about that. You have already put out a couple of music videos that look great. And I actually didn't know that you released that today. I saw your post and I thought it was coming out tomorrow. So I'm going to check it out right after our interview.
oh, cool.
But for that song. And so it went. It looks like it's going to be a really beautiful video. Were you guys able to get together for the video? Is it just you in the video?
No. We were. It was actually, that was the first time we filmed them. We actually did 3 videos back to back, and
Cool.
in New York. And it was the first time I'd been to New York since March. And it was the first time I'd seen the guys since March. And it was, I don't know about you, but I'm a complete and utter hypochondriac. Like this whole thing has had me very freaked out. Like pre-pandemic, like you know, it probably stems from being a singer on tour, and maybe you have some similar neuroses as to me.
Just
but like,
not wanting to get my throat sick. Yeah.
Yeah, but like I used to fly with a mask. I wore rubber gloves everywhere. I don't like shaking hands. I did the like blow bump all the time just because I'm so paranoid about getting sick. Just because, you know, once you get sick on tour, even if you recover, you never fully recover.
Like, you don't. Yeah, that's true.
You can get through the shows, but you're never 100% again. And so my paranoia, you know, probably actually served me well in this crazy circumstances. But so leaving the house and actually going to the city and seeing the guys, it was terrifying to me. Right. Like petrified. But when I get into kind of work mode, I just had to figure out how to shut all of that out. And we took every possible safety protocol, and, you know, masks and shields and 48-hour testing, 24-hour testing, 12-hour testing, then the 15-minute on-set, you know, testing. No one was allowed in the building before they were cleared. So like we did everything we possibly could, but I had gotten to a point where I was like, I can't not make visuals for this album. Like I want, if we're not gonna be able to tour, I at least need to kind of full circle this with you know, by showcasing it in some way. And so it was a great deal of fun, honestly. Like it was
That's really cool that you did them at once.
It was a terrifying week that I didn't sleep, and it was, you know, A, from stress, and B, from just how much we had to get done in a week of filming. But it was super fun. It's so good to see the guys, and you know, even though it wasn't a show, but you know, drums.
It feels like it. You get to play.
Drums still make noise. The amps were still plugged in. Like, so, you know, even though there wasn't an audience in front of us, it was the closest thing we'd come to playing a show in months. And it was great. So.
You know, I had,
it teased me to ask about your videos. Because
no, it's cool. Well, we did, you know, in the beginning, it was like impossible. We did like 2 different videos completely separate, like ourselves, like DIY quarantine videos.
I thought was really cool and really, and by the way, really brave. Brave might be the wrong word, but like really, really creative and really inspiring to see you like so behind what you're putting out, and even in those like, because I just waited till we could, you know, do a.
Well, I mean, it's different for us too, because our stuff is so. Like our videos from the past are like such a high production thing. Like I know that people expect that. And I couldn't think of a way that we could be on that level. But what I thought of was, well, we can show more of our real true selves. And if this is the bitter truth, this is that reality. Take off the makeup moment to just be real, you know, let's go for it.
I loved it. I really I loved that it really showed like the vulnerability of the song. It showed the vulnerability of you guys as people, and was very just very all like encompassing, where like, you know, everyone stuck at home, and like by showing what everyone was going through in a really fair and honest way, I thought was just extraordinarily artistic, and it turned out fantastic. And
thank you. That being said, it did feel better to use my voice when we had a crew and and we did like you. Thank you. And even then, you know, it's still a little bit funky. Like we're in a room with like everybody's got masks on as a part, and we're doing some of our own makeup and all, you know. Yeah, it just felt so good to find a way to do it. And we could only have, we could never get together with Jen because she's in Germany. So we had a separate.
I don't mean to interrupt, but who's actually in the band now? Like,
yeah, the difference between We're With You is we switched. It's Terry's gone and we have Jen now. That's the only change. So the other guys are all with us, and we were all together. But Jen being overseas, like we couldn't. So we actually had another small film crew just for her shots, where we did ours first, and then they saw the color and the directors talked and they like did their thing, and it was amazing they were able to make that work. But the guys and I were together, like just quarantined together for that part, because that's when we were recording together last like August.
Sure.
So it worked out. But anyway,
now
I'm kind of stuck because I feel like we need to do another one and they're not here and I don't know what to do. I'm kind of asking you for advice. What do we do?
I don't know what to do. I mean, you just described kind of, I don't know when this is airing exactly, so I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, so this might have to get cut out. I don't know. But the third one we did was for the third video we shot was for the song Only Love Can Save Me Now, which features Matt Cameron and Kim Thale. And they're in Seattle. So we obviously could not all get together and do that in one foul swoop like we would under normal circumstances. So it was kind of a similar situation where we shot our parts in New York during that very insane week. And we just recently shot them in Seattle. And now I'm, in the process of editing and putting it all together. And, figuring out how to make it look like one.
I love that song. That's like my favorite one. I was going to ask if it's
I don't want to say favorite, but it's certainly one.
It's hard to have a favorite of your own, but like me listening through it, I really like 25, and that's my other one that I think is my favorite.
Thank you. That one is very special to me, like very, very near and dear to my heart. And so thank you for.
Good job. Thanks for noticing.
Thanks for noticing. I mean, I was going to say, like the song I love on the album. I don't know if this, I don't know what your plans for singles are, like, videos or what your next, are you guys going to put out another single for the album?
So kind of just a couple weeks before the album, we're going to do Better Without You.
Beautiful song.
So it's a tough choice. I mean,
how do you go about picking them? Like, I know you must have so much, you're Amy Lee, like you have to have creative control. I have to have creative control. So you have to have a lot of say in what, like, how do you choose?
Well, I definitely ask opinions. I listen myself and I try to make up my own mind. Things have become, there's more freedom in not thinking only about radio because, in the past that was such a driving force in the mentality of choosing things. It mattered so much. And it's not that it doesn't matter. We want that. But at the same time, I don't know, we're not like writing songs and really thinking like, let's make a radio smash so much, because it's more about, let's make an album for our fans. Like, let's just be our best. And then anything is possible in terms of what's happening in music anymore. And who knows, what's ever going to be anything. And I naturally have, we all do some pop sensibility of like what makes sense and what doesn't, and what's going to be appealing to more people. But it's not the whole pie when choosing the singles anymore. It's more like, well, honestly, this time for me has been all about meaning, and that's different. Like, meaning matters, but I wanted it to be about what's happening. So the first song, that wasn't going to be the first single at first, but Wasted on You had to be the first one because it was when the pandemic first happened, and Frozen in Time, Waiting on a Miracle, all that stuff. It had to be the song. Yeah. And then use my voice at election time.
Thank you for having me sing on that. That was a pleasure, and I love it. I think it's awesome.
I owe you.
Thanks for that. No, are you kidding?
I do, because I do all this press and everybody's like, you have so many fantastic guests, yada yada. I'm like, I know. I am very humbled. I have all this like name power just because I have badass friends. So I got next.
No, it's no, I know. No, fine. I'm gonna be calling you for the favor next time. But it wasn't a favor, it was a pleasure.
Thank you.
And I really think it turned out awesome. So I'm very glad that you contacted me for that. But I get what you're saying of like, especially now the way that, sorry to go back a little bit, the way music is distributed now, it's, and thinking strictly for the radio, first of all, I love rock radio. Like my favorite thing is getting in the car and driving around and looking through rock radio stations. And then when you get, happen to hit that magic moment, one of your songs comes on. It's like,
the best.
It's the best. It's the most exciting thing in the world. And that, I feel like that never gets old, but we certainly don't write for the radio. And by what you were saying of like putting out songs, that it's more about telling the full story and the kind of this, what you're trying to convey emotionally and how you want people to experience the record. Like 25, for example, like we made a music video for that, and, we released that, but that didn't go to radio. Like,
right.
That's not a radio song. So but it was important to me that was kind of the follow up to Death by Rock and Roll, the song, just because I wanted to kind of introduce the record in a way that it was grander than just the kind of, quote, active
it's
rock.
Such a story. It feels like listening to your story. And I think that's really cool. And I think that's what people will, be intrigued by the most and, probably relate to the most. And I've been thinking about meaning in the moment, and well, Better Without You is, here we are. We just got through this crazy time in our country. And we are towards, the end part, hopefully, I believe that we are, of this pandemic stuff, and just so much that it feels like this breakup moment. Like, I want to step into the next chapter and overcome everything. And, like you said, it's hopeful, but that hope is coming from a place of having been through some shit.
Yeah. Well, because how can you be hopeful if you haven't been through some shit?
Yeah.
What it means? Like,
nothing to hope for. Everything's great. Yeah.
When everything's always, rainbows and sunshine, then,
right.
I feel like I need, that's why I've never wanted to live in Los Angeles. Like, I feel like I need the change of seasons. I need the
storm with you, girl.
I need the storms to appreciate the beautiful sunny days. If it's just,
that is so well said,
70 and sunny all the time, then, life becomes this weird utopia that you don't actually, I don't know. I at least find that I can't appreciate, you need the ups and the downs in order to.
You're preaching to the choir. Yes. What's next for you guys? Being a typical interviewer on that note.
Sure. What is next?
Coming out?
Album's coming out this Friday or next. Sorry. I don't know. Album's coming out February 12th. I don't know when this is airing. So
awesome.
It's before then. It's coming out February 12th. It's after then. It's out. It's called Death by Rock and Roll. More singles coming, more music videos coming. And now we're really trying to like figure out how to get in the rehearsal space and how to be safe, figure out the, whether it's a live stream concert or just some way to kind of continue to, attempt to play this record in some way for people.
Same exact thing here, except the date, March 26th, Bitter Truth, rock and roll.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what that's going to look like yet, but we're all living day by day right now. So it's just kind of stay tuned. And now I will ask you the same question. So what does your future look like, Amy?
It's the same. We're releasing our album. I'm trying to figure out what to do for a visual for this next song.
Okay.
And I think we just have to go, like you said, moment to moment, and go with what feels right, not what we can sell people. I think authenticity is everything, especially in rock. And the more that we can just be true to that.
I love and it's what feels right now we can sell to people. That's a really poetic and such a true statement.
Thank you.
That's the way that
whatever we can do to help, make things just a little bit, better, share some music, share some soul, and until we can all get back out there and sing together.